Hello friends and potential friends. Well, let's see, today is February 12th, 2022. Nice, bright, sunny day, not a cloud in the sky. And I'm back at the patience garden, trying to learn my patience. I have noticed that some of the asparagus ferns have started yellowing, so they may actually die off before too long. That's what I've been waiting on, so I can get in here and trim them back and get another good layer of mulch over top of them. We've been going through something of a winter the last month. Cold fronts keep coming through about every 3 or 4 days. Sometimes we get a little bit of rain with them. Most of the time it just cools things off for a few days. And then the temperatures work back up towards the 70s. In the last month we've had 7 mornings that were below 40. One of those being a real freeze, though it only made it down to like 30. So it wasn't really a hard freeze. But this has been cold weather for Florida. I know it's not cold by most of y'all's standards, but down here we're not used to the cold temperatures. So I haven't gotten a lot done out here in the garden, and for that reason I'm not going to do much of a walk around. I've been picking tomatoes. The tomatoes are looking pretty rough right now because of all the trimming I had to do after that one freeze we had. And incidentally, right now it's about 10:30 in the morning, and temperature is rapidly approaching 70. Later this afternoon we'll probably be headed close to 80, though I doubt if we'll hit 80 over here by the coast. Farther inland around Orlando and parts south of Orlando, they're predicting 84 or 85 for a high today. And then tonight there'll be another cool front move through. We're supposed to get a little bit of rain out of that. It'll drop our high temperatures back into the 60s again for a couple days. And then it'll be warming up again. We've been playing roller coaster. In fact, we had one day about a week or week and a half ago where we got up to 86.7. And for that particular date, the record high temperature for Daytona was 87. So we almost hit it. I think they did set a couple of records farther inland. But anyway, let me get you off of that tripod and we'll go take a look at what I really want to talk about today. But before we do that, we'll take a closer look at the asparagus. So you can see that, yep, there is some yellowing in there. Most of the ferns are still green, but there is some yellowing. And they're all about this. When they pop up, the asparagus spears are about the size of a toothpick. So I'm going to have to keep practicing my patience. Well, here in the lab, there's not a whole lot going on. In fact, there's the other side of the lab with absolutely nothing happening. But over on this side I do have a few experiments going on. I've got my sweet potato slips growing, and they're coming along pretty nice. Those won't be going into the ground until near the end of March, so they've got plenty of time to develop. And my sweet potato experiment. I'm currently counting 11 seedlings here. Oop, 12. There's 2 of them in that one. Okay, I got 2 seeds in that pot. I'll have to see if I can separate those. Can you see those? Let's see if I can zoom in. Yep, got 2 of them there. There's one back there that looks like its head fell off. That's happened a couple of times because these seeds are pretty solid. Oh look, there's 2 in that one too. So I'll be doing a little bit of separating, and then it won't be too long before I move them up to larger pots like I did with these 4 back here. And incidentally, I'm not terribly concerned about the head falling off of that one because this guy back here in the back did the same thing. When it came up, the leaves were stuck inside the seed, or the seed husk, and the whole seed husk, leaves and all, fell off. But it still came back, so I'm not going to worry too much about that other one there. I do still have my ginger experiment going. No signs of life there, but I'm not really expecting any. Still have the dragon trees growing. And in these trays here, I've got tomatoes that I've started. There's some Amish paste that are going to have to be separated pretty quick. Everglades tomatoes, haven't seen any sprouts in there yet, but I'm still hoping. The Homestead tomatoes, these are from seeds I saved last year, and I've got a few of them popping up. And then back in the back is the Praxis cherry. I just can't help but plant the Praxis cherry every chance I get. But let's talk sweet potatoes. Anybody that's been following my little sweet potato experiment knows that I came up with a bunch of sweet potato seeds a few years ago. Looks like so. And so I couldn't help but plant them. I mean, what else do you do when you get seeds? I did some research and had trouble finding any information on the internet regarding how you grow sweet potatoes from seed. So I just decided to wing it. I formed a few theories, a few hypotheses, which I discussed in my first video about this experiment. And then I dug into it. Well, my friend Peanut over at Peanut's Peppers found a link to a video from Louisiana State University's agricultural northeast region that talked about growing sweet potatoes. It turns out that LSU Ag grows thousands of sweet potatoes every year, and they grow them all from seed. Their purpose is breeding, selective breeding. They're trying to come up with sweet potatoes that are resistant to some of the more common blights and pests that we deal with sweet potatoes. And while I was watching that video, which incidentally I'll put a link to that video in the show notes, give you a link to Peanut's page too, just in case you haven't come across him before. He's a good friend. One of the things that they mentioned in that video is that when they grow sweet potatoes for seed, the seeds and flowers don't really show up until very late in the season. They said they get theirs usually around December, and that's up in northern Louisiana. Well, the seeds that I collected I got in December as well. So that got me thinking, why is it that people don't know that sweet potatoes grow seeds? And the answer to that is pretty easy. I mean, let's face it. When you grow sweet potatoes, what do? You grow yourself some slips. You plant the slips in the spring. You nurture the plants through the summer. And then in the fall, you dig your sweet potatoes. Well, when you dig the sweet potatoes, usually the first thing you do is pull the plants up, and that's the end of that crop. But according to LSU Ag, if you leave those sweet potato plants growing, and I can't tell you how you're going to harvest the tubers without messing up the plants, but if they keep growing, sometime around November or December, they'll start flowering. And right after that, you'll start seeing the seeds showing up. So really, the reason that most people have never seen sweet potato seeds is because they dig them up before the seeds have a chance to form. Now, there's another question that I was wondering about, and that is the low germination rate that I saw. And I'll be honest, it was pretty abysmal. Now, the first group of seeds that I planted, those were the ones that I had in that little Ziploc baggie, and they stayed in the crisper drawer of my refrigerator for about 3 years before I planted them. And I probably didn't get more than about a 10% germination rate. Well, I found another pack of seeds that I had saved at the same time, but those ones I vacuum sealed and then put them in the crisper drawer. And that's where I got all these little seedlings from. These are all from the ones that were vacuum sealed, so they were better protected from, all the stuff that could go on. Sitting here looking at these, I see one more that's got 2 sprouts in there, so really that's 12, 13, 14 over there, and the 4 I've got over there. So I've got a pretty good set of seedlings to work with for this experiment, and I think I'm getting off on a rabbit hole. Let's get back to what I learned from LSU. During the video, the guy mentioned that every year they gather probably 30,000 sweet potato seeds. And in passing, he mentioned that they soak the seeds in some sort of acid before they plant them. That's to weaken the seed hulls and increase the germination rate, because these seeds are solid. I mean, they're like little tiny rocks. I don't know how you could peel them or open them up without damaging the seed inside, but the way they do it is by soaking them in acid. So that's another thing you might want to keep in mind if you can figure out how to do it. And incidentally, there is an email address in the show notes of that video. So my plan is to send them a question. see what kind of acid they use, how they go about doing that, and if I think it's worth the trouble, I might give it a try. But let's go back to square one. Why would you want to grow sweet potatoes from seed? Well, if that's all you've got, that's all you've got. So that's the way you do it. If you can get your hands on a good sweet potato, you can grow slips from it and grow the slips out to get your future crop. But if you're doing like LSU is doing and trying to crossbreed sweet potatoes for specific characteristics, growing from seed is really the only way to do it, because you're going to have to follow several generations of those seeds in order to get to your final product. It could take years to develop the sweet potato that suits your needs. Now with this experiment, I'm switching it over a little bit. I'm not just trying to answer the question of can I grow sweet potatoes from seed. My new question is, can I develop a strain of sweet potatoes that is uniquely suited to my garden? And the only way I can do that is by growing them out from seed, saving seeds, planting those seeds the next year, and on and on and on until after who knows how many generations I have a more resilient plant. Once I get to that point, then I can just take the tubers and start growing the slips again. But it's been an interesting experiment so far, and I've learned a lot, and I hope to learn a lot more. These guys will be going outside sometime in March, probably closer to the end of March, and I'm going to have to put together another raised bed just for them as soon as I figure out the right spot in the yard to put it. And then we're going to take it from there. And when the end of the season comes, yes, I will dig some of them to see if I got any tubers. But my main goal with these plants is to get another batch of seeds. And hopefully come December 22, I'll be able to do that. And then we'll start planning for the 2023 crop. So hang in there. I hope this helps somebody. There's still more to learn. So if you learn anything that I haven't talked about, by all means let me know, because I'm a novice at this just like most of the rest of you are. But it does seem possible, makes sense, and I'm looking forward to learning whatever I can learn. So with that said, I'll see you on the next video.